Okay. Today, would you pass out the papers? You passed out? Pass out the papers? You passed out the papers? Thank you. Let me open it up on my computer and let's start. It's very late. Yeah, that's right. I'm a little on the slant because the recording tonight, I face both sides and head back. That's okay. Okay, ready? How are we all doing today? 1 second, let's make sure we have some viewers. Before we start, Shalom Yaakov is watching us, the most complimentary, loving, generous person. Yaakov, you have a beautiful gift to be so appreciative. It's a beautiful, beautiful gift. Okay, if you're watching on Chabad.org, it's a slow connection. How are you, Barbara? Good. David, you're good? You found me in the picture, so no way. There's no way you found me. I am all the way in the I'm all the way in the right. Yeah, I was a little black hat and glasses. Glasses. Don't forget the glasses. Good evening, everyone that's watching. Yeah, the picture was I was a little late. I'm gonna try and push my way up onto the bleachers, but I was on time for the picture, but to get up, it was very crowded. In general, this year the convention was the most crowded it's ever been. They were saying it was the biggest. I absolutely felt the level of lack of space. But definitely Saturday morning, on 770, the squishing was tremendous. Tremendous. You can't even imagine. If you haven't been in 770, you don't know what crowded means. Almost, literally on like I was standing for the first 2 hours, and then I got moved into a bench. But the bench, which had people sitting, I was so crowded. There was 2 rows of people standing, which should have been 1 row of people sitting. And I couldn't stand because the bottom of the bench was like in the back of my leg. So I was like kind of sitting on the top of like the very end of my tush, but whatever. I survived that, and then it was very crowded. Very, very crowded. 770 they have upstairs. Yeah. On all sides of 770. You've been to 770. You've never been to 770? Never gone on a trip with us. You got to do a trip with us, either daytime or if Michelle wants to do a Shabbat in the Heights again. I'm ready to do it. They put up the dates for it. I think it may even be open for registration, I think. If you want to join me for Shabbat in the Heights, we get a group. I'm glad to go. But it's not just I'm glad to go. It's a beautiful trip. If you want to join us, it's in May. It's a beautiful, beautiful program. For the houses, yeah. I remember the guy's name. There you go. It shows the impact. You still remember. Well, you talk about him also as his father. His grandpa, yeah. He's a very, very famous grandpa, yes. Anyway, for those that are watching us, good evening. Good evening, Gail. Good evening, Art. Good evening. Anyone else watching? If you're watching on Chabad.org, you can say hi because I don't see comments yet. But I'm coming back on a high from last night. Yesterday's part of the convention was A++. I don't know whoever got to see it. I shared the link. Nobody watched it? Nobody. Oh, you watched it. It's worth watching. You go to Chabad.org. I'm sure they have. No, I'm sure. I know they have the replay there. You can watch the. It's worth it. It was very, very special. And after I went to, it was like an alumni for breaking from my high school. It was very sober. It was my teacher. I don't know, something, whatever. It was a beautiful, like 2 in the morning with joining. So, those are my email address. My email address is rabbi@mychabadcenter.org. Rabbi@mychabadcenter.org. Okay. So, let's get to it. We're going to talk today, and I can go in a few areas. We'll see. We'll bring a little bit. We're going to talk today about, good evening, Chard, about one of the greatest struggles in all of Jewish history. Okay? So today's class is not going to be a class on Esav per se. We've done a class on Esav, and we can talk about his wickedness. And that's actually how I first started preparing. For so many weeks we're doing all these wicked people, Lot and his wife and his daughters, and continue. But I want to talk about the greatest struggle we find ever in Jewish history. And that is the struggle between The two brothers that are born in this week's Torah reading, Yaakov and Esav. And these two brothers will fight from the day they're born. Actually, take that back. They'll fight from before they're born. They will fight on the day they are born. And they will fight literally until the day of their death. Literally, until the day of their death. There will never be, even when there's moments of peace, it's very temporary. There's a never-ending struggle and fight between these two brothers. And so today I want to specifically focus on Esav, but from the perspective of the struggle that he has with his brother, and how this struggle between Yaakov and Esav is a struggle that we all deal with. And if our hearts are open, we can really feel this story that we're going to learn tonight in our own lives, especially if you've struggled or are struggling, and if you've gone through good periods, and then like new struggles come, and you wonder, why am I struggling? What's the point of the struggle? Why do I have to always struggle? Then this story that we're going to talk about tonight might really resonate with you in a very powerful level. So let's start from the beginning. I'm going to open up our textbooks. If you're watching on my personal page, I'm going to share the text from the opening of the Torah reading, chapter 25. If you have a chumash at home, or you have the copies here in front of you, chapter 25, verse 22. Basically, though, just a little bit of an introduction. Rivka is struggling to have a child. Rivka, Rebecca in English, is the wife of Isaac, right? Daughter-in-law of Abraham and Sarah. And for 10 years, she cannot have children. Finally, she makes her husband pray. They pray together, and she's answered, and she becomes pregnant. Well, according to the Medrash that she was through when she got married, yes. Yeah. Anyway, she becomes pregnant, and it's a very, very difficult pregnancy. Verse 22, the Torah tells us, and the children struggled within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I like this? And she went to inquire of the Lord. Okay? She's having a very difficult pregnancy. She goes to ask the greatest sage of the time, the greatest prophet of the time. His name was Shem. Actually, probably it was the Aver. Shem was not alive. I don't think Shem was alive. She goes to ask from Aver for advice. Understand why is she having such a painful pregnancy? What was so painful about a pregnancy? So Rashi tells us, a very famous Medrash, that the Medrash tells us that the rabbis interpreted the word by Yisraitzu. I skipped the first two lines. By Yisraitzu, that they were struggling, is also connected to the word Yatz, to run, right? So verify, to run. She had two children running inside her. Where were they running? So Rashi says, I'll just say it outside. Whenever she would pass by a place of Torah, which was the yeshiva, the study hall of Shem and Aver, Shem is the son of Noah, just so you know. Noah had three sons. The most righteous of the three was Shem. He had a grandson called Aver, who continued his legacy, and they taught ideas of one God and monotheism and being holy and righteous and moral. They taught whoever wanted to come to this academy and learn, they taught. They weren't considered the first Jews because they didn't go out of their ivory tower to inspire the world the way Abraham did, but they taught. So whenever she would pass by this place of holiness in the yeshiva of Shem and Aver, she would feel the baby inside her running and kicking and trying to get out. However, whenever she would pass by the entrance to a house of idol worship, she would also feel this baby kicking and running, ruts, which means to run, to go out. So she got very worried. She said, what's happening over here? They have like a child, like, what's it called? Jack and Hyde, whatever, Jackal and Hyde. What's that guy who like changes? Jackal and Hyde. She's very worried, and she comes to ask this prophet for advice. Another explanation, Rashi was something fascinating. Davar Acher, another explanation, towards two lines from the bottom of this Rashi. Why were they fighting? Not just about entering this study hall or entering the house of idol worship. They were struggling with each other and quarreling about the inheritance of the two worlds. Even before they were born, Esav and Yaakov are fighting over who will inherit which world. And Esav wants to inherit this world, and Yaakov wants the world to come. It's a whole discussion. How Esav says to Yaakov, I'll give you this world, and you give me, Yaakov says, I'll give you my portion of this world, you give me your portion of the world to come. They're fighting already in utero. They're already fighting with each other about if there's a world to come and if it's worth it. So she's very worried about this. So she asks the prophet, what's going on? Verse 23, and the Lord said to her, now she did not hear this directly from Hashem, she heard this through the words of the prophet. The Lord said to her, Shnei goyim bivitneich. There are two nations in your womb, and two kingdoms. Mima'ayich will separate from your innards, and one kingdom will become mightier than the other kingdom, and the elder will serve the younger. So Rashi tells us that from the womb, mima'ayich means already within the womb, they're already separated. This one is wickedness, and this one is his innocence. Okay. So she now understands that it's not one child that's bipolar. It's two children. One child is going to be a righteous, holy father of a holy nation, and one will be a wicked person who will be the father of a wicked nation. Comes the day she's going to give birth, and she has a terrible, terrible. Who will be born first? So any delivery is painful. My wife has never had twins. So I don't know how much more intense that is, but I can imagine that it's two kids. It's totally double. But they're fighting. And in fact, the first kid to start coming out of the womb is? No. Yaakov.
Who's holding the kid?
He tries coming out first. Yeah. And then Esav pushes his way. Yeah, and he comes out, and Yaakov comes out holding on to the heel of Esav.
Yeah, so Esav came out.
Esav pushed his way. But he wasn't supposed to come out first.
Right.
They're fighting who's going to come out. And they come out literally fighting, holding one, holding the other one back. Can you imagine? Now, in addition to that, it said that Esav, when he came out, he ripped up his mother's innards. It's an interesting medrash. He didn't want, just to give you an idea of how selfish he was, he didn't want his mother to have any more children besides for him. He wanted to be the only one to inherit his parents. Already in the womb, he's already thinking in this kind of style. So the medrash says, as he came out, he made sure to destroy his mother's birth canal. She didn't just bleed. She didn't just it's not uncommon to these stitches. You rip here a little. He tore so much and he did such damage that she would never be able to have children again after that. That's how painful it was, and that's how, I don't know, bloody is not the right word, because I'm saying it's not just that it was bloody. It was horrific and very, very, very gruesome birth. Anyway, they're born, and they're already fighting. Literally from the moment they're born, they're fighting. Who will be the firstborn? Who will have the rights to be the... But I want to correct myself. I don't think that Yaakov actually came out first. That was with Peretz and Zerach. Zerach, sons of Yehuda, stuck his hand out first, and then the other brother came out. Yaakov didn't come out first. Esav came out first, but he pushed. They were fighting the whole time.
But Yaakov wasn't his name because of...
He was holding on to the Esav. He's called Yaakov because he was holding on to the Esav, onto the heel of his brother. And the Esav was called Esav from the word asu. Asu means made. When you make something, asu is made, it's done. He was born full of hair, with teeth.
Yeah. With
teeth. Can you imagine a baby with teeth? Very scary. I don't know how his mother breastfed him. She didn't. I don't know if they had formula back then. I don't know. He was already done. Asu, he was with teeth. Full hair, full body, everything, I don't know if he had a beard, but I'm saying he was full of his whole body that had hair on it. He was a hairy kid. Not just he had hair on his head. A lot of kids come with a lot of hair on their head. His whole body was covered in hair. So if I give him a wrist, whatever. I don't want to talk about Esav so much. I want to talk about the struggle between them. So these two sons, already from the day that they are born, are destined to go in two different paths. Now it actually says that during the first 13 years of Yaakov's and Esav's life, Esav behaved. Maybe some trouble here and there, but more or less he was followed. His grandfather Avram was his teacher. And Avram taught both of his grandsons, and they both were involved and they were learning, etc. Until it came the day of Esav's bar mitzvah. You have to remember, Esav is a Jewish kid, by the way. According to Jewish father, Jewish mother, he grew up in a Jewish home. He had a bar mitzvah. Day of his bar mitzvah, he went out, not to party in a club. That's what they did back then if you wanted to prove your manhood. He He went out, the rabbi tells us, the Medrash said that on the day of his bar mitzvah, he went out to do 5 different sins. 5 different sins. You know what he did? We'll find my printed out cover. He went to go violate a betrothed virgin. He found a girl, a virgin, betrothed, engaged, raped her. He murdered a person. He, at that day, denied God's existence. He denied Tchiyat HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. And he came back to his brother. He was so hungry, and he took the food in exchange for the birthright. He also denied the value. He despised, he disgraced the birthright. And on his bar mitzvah day, he did 5 sins. 5 sins. Now, side note, but it's connected and it's important. Abraham was not supposed to die on Esav and Yaakov's bar mitzvah. Abraham was supposed to live for another 5 years. He was supposed to live for another 5 years to the age of 108. Instead, what happened? God took his life 5 years early, so he would not see the sins that Esav would do on this day of his bar mitzvah. So Abraham dies, and instead of going to be with his family and sitting shiva and mourning the loss of his father, of his grandfather, you know what he does instead? He goes out to violate, to murder, to rape, etc. And that's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. He comes back, he's starving. And Yaakov is cooking lentils. Why is he cooking lentils? It was a red soup. It was lentils. Why was he cooking lentils? There's a custom that when someone is in mourning, they eat a round food that has no opening in it, no mouth. So the common custom today is to eat eggs, which is the same thing as a custom that an avel, a mourner, when they come back from the funeral, they eat eggs. Why eggs? Because they're round. There's no top or bottom. There's no this is the opening, and there's no mouth. Most foods or fruits have a mouth to them, but the seeds going etc. This is completely round. And so too, lentils also have no opening, no mouth. So he was cooking lentils for his father, who was in Shiva, who had just come back from the funeral of his father. He's cooking food for his father. So he's cooking the food. And Esav is very hungry. And what does Esav say to his brother? I'm hungry. What? Give me the food. Exactly. I don't want it. And basically, on that day, he despises the firstborn birthright. And he says, I don't want it. I don't need it. Leave me alone. And he gives up on its portion of the world to come. And he takes the food. So they continue fighting. Yaakov and Esav on their bar mitzvah now formally separate ways. And Yaakov goes to study in yeshiva and to learn from his father. And Esav goes to be wicked, to kill, becomes a terrible, terrible murderer, becomes known and feared throughout the land. He murders many people. He has a custom of taking girls before their weddings. He lives on the highways. That's what he is. He's a dangerous man who hunts and kills. That's what he does for a living. More than just a troublemaker. He was a troublemaker. Could be, whatever. You tie someone's shoelaces together. You know what I'm saying? He was violent. And he was evil. Well, like a chabas. Now, I don't know what to say to you. I literally just lost my train of thought for a second. So they go in 2 different ways. Now, we are told, Hasidus, Kabbalah tells us in many places, that this struggle, this dichotomy between Yaakov and Esav, of these 2 nations that exist within the person, and how when one prevails, the other will go down, and when one goes down, the other will go up. This is the story of every single person. We all have inside ourselves 2 different voices inside us. In classic Jewish literature, they're called the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, which in English, the word Yetzer means an inclination, the way you were formed. So you have not 1 inclination, but 2 inclinations, which makes things very complicated. If we would be single format, one trick ponies, okay, this is what we do. But we're not one trick ponies. We're multi-dimensional creatures. And we have not 1 but 2 different inclinations. And they're not just 2 different inclinations, they're fundamentally different from each other. In Hasidic terminology, we call this the godly soul and the animal soul. The same struggle, the same dichotomy, the same pull between the voice inside that wants to do good, the voice that wants to live a holy, majestic life, and the voice that wants to be lazy, to be indulgent, to be selfish, to be narcissistic, etc. And these two voices are constantly struggling and fighting one with the other. And throughout all of the story of Yaakov and Esav, these two voices are going to fight. I was thinking as I was preparing right now for the class, what's a good example for this? You have stories of Siamese twins. So there's a story about these two girls, these two sisters called Ladan and Layla Bijani, who, page numbers here, who they were Iranian, and they were co-joined twins, joined at the head. I just Googled it now, and I got like the whole, get the whole rundown. So they were joined at the head. But what made them extraordinary is that they had completely different personalities, completely different ambitions and desires. Ladan, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, was very outspoken. She wanted to be a lawyer. She hoped to live in Shiraz, which was where they grew up. And she liked computer programming, and she was very extroverted and talkative and was very, liked to party and go out and hang out with people. And Layla, her sister, was more introverted, who wanted to be a journalist. She wanted to leave Iran. She did not like Iran. She wanted to leave, go abroad, go to Europe, go to I don't know which one to go. She wanted to leave the country. She loved computer games. She liked quiet. She was more reserved. Didn't like noise. Didn't like going to parties. Didn't like talking to people. And they had to go to school. They could only go to one school. They couldn't do journalism and law school. They had to choose. Are we going to go pursue a legal career or choose a career in journalism? Are we going to live here or are we going to move? These are tough life choices that they had to make, and they were completely different people. And from when they were young children, they wanted to be separated. They hated living together. They were very miserable together. One wanted to go party, one wanted to go to the room and play on the computer. One wanted to go to move, and one wanted to stay. And this is literally the story of Yaakov and Esav. Because Yaakov and Esav are not two different people. Yaakov and Esav, in the spiritual context, which is the context we're going to talk about tonight, are two different people within us, with two different voices, two different inclinations within one person. And so Layla couldn't escape Ladan, and Ladan couldn't escape Layla. They had to learn to live with each other. Now, the end of this story, anyone know the story? You guys know this? No one saw the story a few years ago. So finally, in July of 2003, they finally found doctors who were willing to operate and to separate. And they were warned that, you can very easily die. It was very, very risky. It had never, ever been done successfully before. But they found doctors in, I think, Korea, somewhere in Singapore, who felt comfortable doing the surgery. It was a 50-hour surgery. 50 hours in surgery to separate them into two different bodies. And they were very excited. They knew the risks, but they wanted to see each other without looking in the mirror. I want to see you from a distance, I don't want to see you in the mirror when I see me. I want to see you over there and I'm over here. And the surgery, after 50 hours, was successful. It was successfully separated the two different bodies, but within hours of each other, they both passed away. They survived the surgery, and within hours of each other, neither of them lasted, made it through the day. I don't know the hours, and the next one died a few hours later. I'll tell you another story, two other Siamese twins, which are very different. The same story, but a very different ending. So Abby and Brittany Hensel were born in 1990, and they are American dicephalic parapagus twins. That's it. What? Yeah, meaning they have two heads, and they're still alive. They're still alive. I'll tell you soon what they're doing. They have two heads, two brains, separate heart and lungs and stomachs, but they share one body with one set of arms and one set of legs. So their body, their hands and legs is one, But the whole inside is two. So there's two hearts inside this one body, and there's two organs and two stomachs and two their entire intestines and the brain and their heart is completely different bodies. And their head, they have two heads coming out of one body with one set of arms and one set of legs. They're born in 1990, they're American, and they're also very, very different. Abby is more outspoken. She likes bright colors and fun fashion. She prefers staying home. She loves structure and organization and doing things properly. And Brittany is quieter and more practical. She likes neutral colors. She likes pearls, and she likes going out. She's more contemplative. Their bodies there's one body, but the different sides of the body react to temperature differently. So Abby gets hot much faster. So the side of the body that's Abby's side gets hot quickly. And imagine me and you fed with air conditioner, but we were, one body. So Abby gets hot, and Brittany doesn't get hot. Even though they share a body. Because they're intended the way they react, their nervous system, is different. Brittany's afraid of heights. They have different handwritings. They can each be in the same class, do the same work, and get different answers on the test and get different grades. Which is a fascinating thing about how tests are a very weak way of judging someone understands. Because they both learn the material, but the way that they answer a question on a test is different. And they went to the same class. They reviewed together. They reviewed the same amount. Do the same homework. And the way they process, the way they communicate, they get different grades. And when they were born, the discussion about separating them, they decided not to. And they actually decided that they don't want to be separated. They work together. They ride a bike, which is amazing. They play piano, which is amazing. And how you play piano, you need to have both hands coordinated. But the two hands are being controlled by two different people. You understand? One hand is controlled by Abby's brain, one hand is controlled by Brittany's brain. And one leg is controlled by Abby's brain and one by Brittany, and they can bicycle in unison. They have such a good shared language that they know how to work exactly together to bike. Together. Two people on one bike. They play piano together. They write emails together. Like two hands on the computer. And when they don't agree on what to write, they'll write like Abby says this, Brittany says this. But they have to learn how to they have two hands. They can argue with each other. They can speak separately. They both got driver's licenses. They drive, and they got married. One got married. Remember, they're together. It's like it's surreal. They have a kid. I didn't say here. Do they have a kid? No, but they're married. Doesn't say it here where I live. I remember the story. So why am I sharing two stories? In some way, they're both the same. In some way, they're both the same that they were forced to live with two completely different personalities inside one body. And yet the outcome is completely different. Why is it completely different? Brittany and Abby decided we can learn to live together, work together, be one, and they bicycle together, play piano together, and drive. They got two different driver's licenses, but they drive together. I don't think they get a speeding ticket. Who gets a speeding ticket? I don't know, Kind of 50-50, I don't know. But it's a good idea if they're speeding and a cop pulls them over. She was speeding. But they have two driver's licenses and they drive together. One pushes the brake, one pushes the gas. I don't know. Oh, they should. Yeah, that was out of the car. They sit in one seat. They're one body. Yeah. And in the other story of Ladan and Layla, where they hated being together, the fight made them constantly fight each other. You already need to separate from each other, and didn't have a happy ending after they separated. So the story of Yaakov and Esav is a story of us being forced to have two different people inside. I'm going to go back to this, but I want to first ask you a question. Which way is the Torah way? Should we be like Brittany and Abby and learn to work the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, or try and break apart and separate from each other? You say separate. You can't separate. Torah says you got to live together. So let's go a little further into the story, and I'm going to go back to this analogy, but let's go further in the story. The story continues that Yitzchak, I forgot to put that back up. Yitzchak got old, he got blind, the father, he wanted to give a blessing to his son, Esav. And Esav would trick him because he was blind, say, I'm very holy, have questions, how do you give a miser, how do you tithe on salt? You have to give 10% of whatever you make to charity. But it has to be something of value. So you're not obligated to give a tithe on salt because salt is so cheap that it doesn't have enough value to give 10% of it. Going back to what we said about the city of Lot, she didn't want to give the salt. That's how cheap she was. So he would ask his father, I have salt that I made. And I'm not sure, how do you give meiser? How do you give a tithe on something that doesn't have any value? So his father thought he was holy. Again, there's many, many dimensions to this. I'm saying on a simple level. But the end of the story is that Yitzchak told his son, Esav, make for me food. I'm going to give you a blessing. And when Esav went to go make food, to go hunt game, and to go prepare food for his father, Rivka, the wife, the mother of Yaakov and Esav, tells Yaakov, go trick your father, take the food I made for you, go say you're your brother, get the blessings. Yaakov gets the blessings. And when Esav comes back into the room where his father and his brother are still, he's walking out, he walks in, Esav says, when the moment comes, I'm going to kill my brother. And Yaakov has no choice but to run away to his uncle Esav. To his uncle Laban. And they live for many, many years. He gets married to gets married to Leah, to Rachel, and to Bilhah, and to Zophah. He has 11 of his 12 children. Actually, 12 children, Dinah also. Finally, he's coming back to the land of Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. And Yaakov and Esav are going to meet again. And as he's on the way to meet his brother, what happens? Look at the screen, at your papers, or you can look at the screen, chapter 30, this is already next week, so we're reading. Jacob came late at night to send all of his family to the other side of the river, and he went back by himself to get some leftover jugs he had left on the other side of the river. And when Jacob was left alone, a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. When he saw that he could not prevail against him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip became dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he, the angel, said, let me go, for dawn is breaking. Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you have blessed me. So he said to him, what is your name? He said, Jacob. And he said, your name should no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, because you have commanding power with an angel of God and with men, and you have prevailed. Here, my friends, is a clear answer. When Yaakov was fighting, the word Yaakov means he had to fight. Fight with his brother. Fight for the heel. Fight. And then when he's fighting against the angel, and the angel can't prevail. So what does the angel say to Yaakov? Let me go. Let me run away. Now, let's say someone attacks you in a dark alley. Okay? Attacks you. And you fight back. And you wrestle him and he can't hurt you. He says, okay, I surrender. Let go of me and I'm going to leave you alone. What would you do? Let him go. Run away and you're safe. And instead of Yaakov saying, okay, I'll let you go. I won. I survived the wrestling match. Yaakov says, no, I'm not letting you go. I'm going to keep wrestling with you. Which is strange. So I'm going to keep wrestling with you. Why am I going to keep wrestling with you? Because I want you to bless me. He wants a blessing. So imagine the guy grabs you in the dark alley. You're fighting with him. He tries punching. You punch him. You knock him down. He's on the floor. He said, I'm not letting you able to give me a blessing. Okay. What does the angel respond? What's your name? What kind of a blessing is that? What kind of a blessing is what's your name? So, the rabbis explain, a name reflects your identity. What's a name? A name is not just something we use to know how to identify you. So, if we call you, I didn't know who are you? If I would just say, yo, person, it wouldn't work, right? So I say Sarah. Now we know, Sarah, not Sadell, not Barbara, not Dora, right? Now we know who I'm talking about. So, in Judaism, a name is not just a way of us, other people having a way to call you, to differentiate you from the people sitting next A name is your Hebrew name anyway, is a reflection of your identity, of your core DNA, which is why when Adam came on the sixth day of creation, he saw all of the animals come before him one by one. The Torah tells us that Adam called each one by its name, and that was its name, meaning Adam was able to see the spiritual letters that make this creature exist. And today we understand what that means. Anything has DNA, right? You have a genetic code, you have a computer code. So you see, you see a screen, you see something on your cell phone, right? Why are you seeing a picture? Because there's thousands and thousands of letters of computer code that are making it this color, this size, making it jump this way, and making that thing come this way, right? So today we understand that, and we understand there's a genetic code, and that's why things are in a certain way. So there's a spiritual code, which is the letters of creation, and Adam was able to see the letters of creation of every single creature and say, this is the spiritual DNA of this creature. And therefore, you know that David is David, and that Saul is Saul, and Steve is Steve, whatever Hebrew name is Chaim Shmuel, right? Chaim and Reuben. So Chaim. So you have a Jewish name, and that reflects your identity. So when the angel says to Yaakov, "What's your name?" He's not saying like, "What's your name?" So I can find you I can give me your phone number. Let's go out for lunch, next week. I'm gonna call you for coffee. So I was asking for his name. He wants to understand what's your identity. Yaakov says, my identity is Yaakov, a man that's fighting against the heel of my brother. The angel says, no longer will you be called Yaakov, but you're going to be called Israel. Why Israel? What does the verse say? What does the angel say to Yaakov? Why will your name be called Israel? What does the verse say in verse 29? Because you have commanded power with an angel of God and with men, and you have prevailed. You won. You showed power. You have become a minister and a ruler over an angel. And in fact, the word Yisrael is from the word Sar Kel. What is Sar? A minister. Right? In Hebrew, you say Sar Bitachon, whatever. Right? Sar is a minister. Sar Kel, minister of God. So you're going to no longer be the heel, now you're going to be Sar Kel, the minister of God, because you prevailed over the men and over the angels that have fought against you, and you have won. And so here we see that Yaakov is being given a blessing not to have to run away from Esav, not to have to hide, which is what he did for 20 years, 22 years actually, where he hid from his brother. And by the way, which is what Yaakov will continue to do, because even after him and his brother will meet, and his brother will hug him and kiss him, and then he says, let's travel together. Yaakov says, no, thank you. I don't want to travel with you. You go ahead, I'll catch up to you soon. He has no intention of ever catching up to him. And Yaakov is afraid of his brother. But the verses are giving us a very, very clear message. The goal, the role of the Jew is not to be a heel. It's not to be running away, to be hiding from your brother. You have the Esav inside you. You have this other voice inside you that's fighting against you. And you have a job, which is what? To prevail over it. To be a Sar Kel, to be a minister of God who's ruling over the here. By the way, the word Yisrael also for the word Li, same 5 letters. Yud, Sin, Reish, Aleph, Lamed. Spell the 5 letters of the word Li, Rosh. Li, Rosh, so same 5 letters. If you reorganize those 5 letters, Lamed, Yud, Reish, Aleph, Shin, is the letters of Yisrael. He went from being an Akev, being a heel, to being Li, Rosh, a head, a ruler, a prevailer, a master. By the way, this struggle between Yaakov and Esav will go until the day that they die. It continues when Yaakov is being buried. What happens? Who knows the story of Yaakov's burial? Yaakov lived in Egypt, right? Last 17 years of his life, Yaakov lived in Egypt. But before he died, he made his son Yosef swear to him that he wouldn't bury him in Egypt, but he would give him a proper burial in the Holy Land. So when he died, he made an oath. He went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh gave permission. They made a whole funeral procession, a whole entourage, and they journey, everyone journeys from Egypt to Hebron, to Varas and Machpelah to bury their father. When they get there, there's a problem. Who's blocking the path? Esav. And Esav says, sorry, this plot is mine. There's two plots from the two sons of Yitzchak and Rivka. One plot goes to Yaakov, one plot goes to me. Yaakov already buried Leah, his wife, in his plot. So I get the other plot. That's what Esav was arguing.
Yaakov is in Hebron, right?
He's buried there, but this is...
And then
Rachel's buried on the side of the road near Shechem, in a place called Beit Lach. But Yaakov had two wives. His wife Leah is buried in his family's plot, and that's where Yaakov planned to be buried. That's where they brought him for burial. But Esav was still alive, so I'm not letting you bury there. That's going to be my plot one day. I want to be buried. And there's two plots. There's two sons, two plots. I get one. Yaakov used his, I get mine. And the truth is that Yaakov, before he had left Israel to go to Egypt, had bought the plot of land from his brother for an inverted plot, meaning if you dig out 6 feet of ground, whatever how much you dig out for a grave, he gave him the equivalent of that in gold. Of his wealth, Yaakov gave to his brother a mound, like as if he dug out the dirt, in exchange for this burial plot. And they had a contract with him. For whatever reason, the contract, the paperwork was not brought from Egypt to Israel. So he right away sent Naphtali, who was the fastest of the 12 tribes, to run back to Egypt to go get the paperwork. Can you imagine? Go get the paperwork. Reminds me of a joke of this police officer who was notorious for giving tickets, speeding tickets, parking tickets, I mean. And the moment he saw a car parked illegally, bam, he started writing a ticket. Either you come running out, you say, sorry, too late, I already started the paperwork, I can't stop now. And one day the rabbi parked, in front of his house illegally, and the officer comes out, sorry, Rabbi, I started the paperwork, getting a ticket. Day comes, and this police officer, this ticket officer, parking ticket enforcement, passes away, they're at his burial, and they're about to start the service, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the service, they see the coffin is moving. And the guy is, he's alive. This police officer, this ticket officer is alive. He's alive. Rabbi looks into the coffin, he sees he's alive. He says, sorry, officer, I already started the paperwork. Anyway, it's upon my head. So, Naphtali went to go get the paperwork, and when they went to go get it, they're all waiting. There was a grandson of Dan, his name was Chushim. He was deaf and mute. He was deaf, he didn't understand what was going on. I don't know if he was deaf. He was deaf. So he didn't understand what was going on, and eventually maybe he was mute also, and like, why are we waiting? So I told him that Esav is stopping him from moving forward. He got very upset that this man is stopping his grandfather's funeral. He took a stick and whacked off the head of Esav. He was a very strong guy. Some of the people that have less ability and some strength are stronger and more powerful than other strengths. He literally knocked his head off of his body. And the head of Esav rolled into the open grave that he would not let anyone dig for their father into. And since his head rolled in, they actually took as a sign his head belongs there. And his head was buried in the grave together with Yaakov. His body was buried outside in Hebron. But his head was buried there. Which means they fought from the day they were born, literally, until the day they died. Literally, until the day they died. And yet we have a clear message here that the job is to find a way to fight, to overcome, and to bring out the greatness, to learn how to live together, not to live together, to overcome, to be ahead, not to live together like Brittany and Amy. They have to learn how to compromise and negotiate, and some days it's my turn, some days it's your turn, right? Here you have to be the ruler. There's no compromises. I'm in charge, but not to utilize the gifts and the talents of Esav to serve. Which brings me to one of my favorite stories in the Torah. My favorite. It's one of the most complicated stories. one of the ones that need the most explanation. One of the stories that need the most explanation of the whole Torah is the story of Yaakov getting the blessing from his brother Esav. Why? There had to be trickery. Why Yitzchak didn't know, or how did he know? How could he not know? Was he so stupid he didn't know which son was righteous, which was not righteous? Why does Rivka not tell her husband? Jewish woman, when they don't agree with something their husbands do, you know what they do? They tell them. Very, very politely, of course, but very empathetically, very convincingly. Another joke. So this guy says, when I said, if a man gets married and say I do, not in Judaism we don't say, but say I do. I said I do. I just didn't realize what I did. I do. What did I do? I don't know if I did it. So if a Jewish wife doesn't agree with her husband, do what all Jewish wives and the rest of Jewish history did, and tell your husband that he's an idiot and a shmagegi and an idiot and clueless and that he's wrong. Rivka doesn't say anything to her husband. She just goes behind his back, tells her son to learn how to be a tricker and a liar and so many issues of the story, many classes. But I want to focus on one detail. I apologize that the text is not here. I was rushing and I wasn't sure to quote the Tanya, and I decided not to put the Tanya, but the ultimate talk was by mistake because I didn't put the Tanya, I didn't put the original text either. When Yitzchak says to his son Esav, I want you to go and get for me, I want to give you the blessings. Do you know what he says to him? Who knows exactly what is the verse that Yaakov says to his son? He says, I want you to, before he says, I'm going to bless you. What does he say before I'm going to bless you? I'll open the text I'll read the exact text. He says to him, in a second. I'm reading, I'm reading from chapter 26, chapter 27, verse number 3 and 4. I'm going to share my screen for those that are watching my personal page. 1 second. So here's the verse. So he says as follows. He says to his son, come here. I want to bless you. I don't know the day of my death. Therefore, please sharpen your weapons and go out to the field and trap me some game. Trap me some deer, some food. Va'aseh li mat'amim, and make for me delicacies. Ka'asher ahavti, as I love them. V'havia li, and bring them to me. V'oichela, so I may eat them. V'avur teverechecha nafshi b'terem avos. In order that I can bless you, my soul's blessing, before I die. Listen, pay attention to this verse. Yitzchak feels like he's going to die soon. So he wants to create a moment of spiritual connection where he can give his soul's blessing. That's the words. That my soul shall bless you before I die. So what does he need first? What am I asking you to do to prepare to receive my soul's blessing? Yeah. Go to the field, sharpen your bow and arrow, a whole verse and a half. Take your bow and arrow. He's giving direction. Sharpen your weapons and take your bow and your arrow. Vitzei hasad, then go out to the field. Vitzudali tzai, and trap for me game. Make me delicacies the way I like them. Bring them to me, and I will eat them, in order that then I shall bless you the blessing of my soul. Meaning that the only way that Yitzchak could give this tremendous spiritual blessing to his son would only be if his son would make him food. Why is food an important part of this conversation? Why is food an important part of this conversation? You're a holy man. Yitzchak was a very, very holy man. Very holy man. Spent his whole life in prayer. You can't give your son a blessing without eating first. Something is strange. The verse and a half of the Torah is telling us of the instructions to go to the field, take your bow and arrow, go capture the game. And today is this week's Torah. No. No. Such detail. Go, he knows how to cook. He goes to bring me food and I'll eat it. And I'll bless you. He wants to go out to the field and to catch it for him. And ba'avur, in order that I should give you the blessing. Yeah.
the older one, Esav was supposed to get it, but in order for him to get it, to Yaakov, he had to do something in order to.
You have to do something. That's true. You have to make a vessel for a blessing. That's true. Okay.
Because
The Alter Rebbe says something so beautiful in Tanya, chapter 27 of Tanya. Just learned the chapter this evening again to refresh myself. Chapter, it's one of the classic, most fundamental chapters of the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe quotes this verse towards the end of the chapter. He quotes this verse, and he explained that there's two kinds of delicacies. There's two kinds of yummy food. There's candy, cheesecake, sugar, or whatever. It tastes good. It's delicious. And you eat it and eat candy. Candy is good, right? Or cake is good. And then there's spicy food, more complex flavors, with many different flavors mixed in. I have to tell you, the first time I was in the kitchen, kitchen's not my place. I don't hang out in the kitchen. It's not a place for a good Jewish boy like me. I just eat the food. But I was in the kitchen, I remember once, and my wife making like a salad dressing, and she put honey and ketchup into the same bowl, and I was freaking out. Honey and ketchup, my brain exploded. Explosion. Honey and ketchup together? Are you crazy? I vividly remember watching this like travesty, like it's like a prank or something. I've seen it many times since. She mixes ketchup and mustard and honey and oil and vinegar and spice and sugar, like vinegar and sugar. Like what do you like? What is this? And she's good, my wife. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing. I've learned to trust her. Many years ago, I learned, okay, I'll trust you. I'll trust the process. If you say ketchup and sugar and honey and vinegar all belong in the same bowl, not sure how honey and vinegar go together, but if you say so, it does. I've seen it happen with my own eyes. I wouldn't say this if I hadn't seen it. Because in my brain, it still doesn't make any sense. But obviously, when you bring many different flavors, and they all have their own unique in the spice and the garlic and the paprika and the oregano and the, I don't know, and this has this and the cumin has that flavor and the pepper has that flavor. You put it all together. Now we're talking good food. Now you're talking good food. A good seasoning on a good piece of steak is much better than any piece of cake. My kids won't agree, but that's the truth. That's the truth. Meaning, this is the analogy of the Alter Rebbe. It's not my analogy. The Alter Rebbe gives an analogy. You have God has two kinds of nachas ruach. There's two kinds of pleasure that God has. You have the goody-goody. You have the kid that does what he's supposed to do, who fits in the box, who knows how to learn, knows how to pray, knows how to behave, who enjoys being holy and spiritual. It's like a candy. He's delicious. He's just honey on an apple. That makes sense. Apple is sweet. The honey is sweet. It makes sense. This kid is like a perfect apple with honey dripping down. It's fun. Delicious. Then you have a Jew who is a very complicated mixture of a lot of different, very, very spicy stuff. Inedible. He's vinegar, and he's black pepper, and cumin, and I don't know what else. There's paprika, and all this. And yet you mix it all together. Now you got flavoring on a good piece of chicken. Now you got flavoring. Now you got a meal. Now you got something delicious. The greatest kind of pleasure that God has, the most delicious food, is a food that has many, many different ingredients. Some of them very spicy, inedible almost on their own. But when you mix them all together into this harmony, now you have a very unique, beautiful flavor that tastes delicious. Tastes geschmack, we say in Yiddish. It tastes beautiful. Wonderful. Esav is the spicy Jew. He's inedible almost. He's so full of spice. But that's why there's so much potential. Sugar is sugar. I mean, sweet. More sugar is more sweet. A lot of sugar is very sweet. Honey is sweet. More honey is more sweet. But these spices, you have to be careful with them. There's a science. Exactly how much to make it delicious. But when you know what you're doing and you know how to use the spice rack properly, the best food in the world. The pleasure of a Jew that has a struggle, the pleasure of a Jew that has a Yetzer Hara, that has an evil inclination that's trying to convince him to be lazy, to be indulgent, to be selfish, to do things he's not allowed to do, or she's not allowed to do, she knows it's wrong for her, and to do it anyway, and to overcome to not do it, that's the greatest form of pleasure. That's the most delicious food that God can experience. Sorry, I don't know if I'm still on. My computer died for a second, but let me just repeat that last part. If it's still streaming. This is what Yitzchak wanted to give to his son Esav. Go out, use your bow and arrow, use your natural gift to hunt, and to go into the field and to be a hunter and to capture for me. And that will create the most delicious kind of food that you can have. And that's why the whole introduction. When you bring me back the skill of your unique talents, of your unique gifts, of your unique abilities, then I'll be able to give you the blessing to transform. But it wasn't meant to be that way, and he was wrong. And Rivka understood that the job is for Yaakov to control himself, not to run away. We can't separate. Unlike the Siamese twins that wanted to separate each other, we can't do that. We got to stay connected. And therefore, Rivka sent Yaakov, and Yaakov's job is to wrestle with the angel, to prevail, and to become no longer holding on to the heel, but to be Yisrael. To be a Sarakel, to be a minister controlling over his brother. That's a story for us, my friends, of the struggle and the battle that exists within us, of our own Yaakov and Esav, our own Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov. Okay? Laila Tov. I hope that everyone on my Facebook is able to get that ending. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Okay? Any comments, questions next week? God willing, same time, same place. Wait.